Let me tell you something about fighting fires, man. Your underwear.
Tell me that story, because I remember seeing the post and it was scary as fuck just to see the aftermath.
First of all, a fire is silent. That's the scary. The only thing you hear is the occasional crackle. But if you were sleeping, you wouldn't goddamn know.
Right.
You'd wake up with your goddamn hair on fire, and the heat is fucking insane. In this incredible apartment, it was a double-decker. First of all, this shit doesn't exist in Toronto. It was the second and third floor. It was a double-decker apartment with the baby grand up there, with a winding staircase bringing you up to the third floor. It had skylights, bay windows, 2 fireplaces, 2 living rooms. 2 living rooms on top of one another. It had multiple bedrooms. It had an art studio. It had a guest room. It had a jacuzzi sauna room. The guy that originally had this apartment was this cheesy Euro guy who wanted to make it into a Playboy apartment.
Okay.
And so I took it and made it into a really great Playboy apartment. I took whatever was great in 70s and awesome, and I embellished it. I embellished the shit out of the place.
Mm-hmm.
So there was this crazy sauna jacuzzi room, but the sauna room, I didn't like to use it because it smelled moldy after you used it. So I said, fuck it. I'm gonna use it as a storage room.
Okay.
And I had all kinds of like curtains and supplies and stuff for events in there. So my girlfriend at the time, she was having a birthday party. And late at night, this chick hooked up with my roommate.
Okay.
And I guess at like fucking 6 a.m., she went to go use the bathroom, but she was too fucking drunk to figure out how to turn the lights on. So she turned the dial of the sauna room. My fault! There was shit leaning against the heater thing with the rocks.
Right.
And it caught the shit on fire. And so the fire alarm goes off, and I'm like, oh fuck, it's that stupid shit. And I open up the sauna room, and there's a small fire about this big.
Right.
And I'm like, I try fighting. I start beating on it with a shirt. But the more I open the door and beat on it, the more it would grow. So then I'd get outside, and I breathe, and I hold my breath, and I go back and fight again. But the more I did it, the more it kept.
Yeah.
And eventually I ran downstairs, and I was in my underwear this whole time. And I ran upstairs, and by then the fire was out of control. And then there became this tragic moment of realization. Oh my God, I just lost the war with the fire. And by the rate that fire was growing, exponentially. Mm-hmm. There was no way to fight it. And the craziest thing was, the bigger it got, the more the intense heat would come off your face, and you're like, holy shit, there's no way. You threw your bucket of water on it. It took like fucking a minute to fill the thing with water. It was a disaster. And I remember walking down the spiral staircase, looking at my piano and all the my beautiful toy soldier room, and I said, shit, I'm now in, I put on my house coat with my underwear, and I said, I'm gonna literally lose everything I've ever had in my whole life right now. But fuck you, fire. I'm gonna take something with me. And so what did I take with me? The pussy sculpture over there. And so here I am walking out of the fire with a vagina restaurant sculpture. And then I went upstairs and said, fuck you, no one's taking my toy soldiers. So I went and took one single box of toy soldiers. So that's all I would have had to show for.
Right.
But thanks to the Toronto fucking fire people, they came so fast, they put it out. And we only lost the bathroom and the hallway and some other shit. But what was really creepy was everything on the second floor, and the back room was all burnt down too.
Right.
Everything. So I had these mannequins, and then the mannequins were like tall, 6-foot mannequins for sure. Everything from the breast up was baked. But it was so far away from the fire. So that tells me this shit was melted. Anything that was 6 feet and above. The heat was so intense. So if you ran out of a room,
right,
even if the fire was way down the hall, your hair would light up on fire.
Right.
Because the heat would have been so intense. No one ever thinks about that. That's why they say get down low and crawl. Because if you go, maybe there's an invisible thing. If you go above 4 or 5 feet, the heat will melt will burn your face.
Well, it's also the smoke, it settles.
Oh no, the smoke. But I'm telling you, everything that was about 5.5 feet and above
was melted.
Was scorched. But even though the fire never went anywhere near that.
Right.
That must have been an incredible amount of heat. But anyways, eventually I got kicked out of the apartment because of that anyways, and they used that as an excuse to kick us out and redo the apartment with the insurance.
Okay.
But that's when my life in Toronto really I started to grow.
That'll do it for this episode of the AVB Podcast. Don't forget you can subscribe to our full audio episodes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere you find your audio podcasts. The full episodes, highlights, and our live off-the-floor performance videos can be found at our YouTube channel, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram at the AVB Podcast. Of course, you'll find links to our incredible sponsors and this week's guest in the description below. The AVB Podcast is part of the Border City Network. Find more great content at bordercitynetwork.com. See you next time, folks. Bye-bye.